I'd like to introduce our first Fireside Chat. I'm really excited for this one, especially these are two guys that I've known for probably 20 years and good friends of mine as well, who have been an inspiration. Scott Heiferman, he's the CEO and founder of Meetup, which was recently acquired and become a part of WeWork as well. And Scott, for me, has been a lodestar for values conversations for years. He's someone who's really lived it and breathed it and has a great ability to articulate how he's made his choices. And we're really excited to hear about that today, too. He's going to be interviewed by Gabe Snyder, Gabriel Snyder, who's an amazing journalist, former editor of Gawker and the New Republic, many others, bylines all over the place, and an all-around brilliant guy. So without further ado, Gabriel Snyder and Scott Heiferman. Thanks, guys.
So I feel, as Nick said, I have known you for a very long time, but I feel like your story and the story of Meetup is a perfect way to start this event. And I was wondering if you could just maybe introduce yourself and maybe tell us what, when we talk about values and the mission of Meetup, what is that value and what are your mission as a company?
Sure. I don't presume that everyone is totally familiar with Meetup. We have signed up 100 million people, but we haven't become anything near what we sort of hope and dream for. Meetup is just trying to bring people together in real life to create real communities. So every day around the world, there's 10,000 little gatherings of 10 people each, meeting up about something that they're interested in, passionate about, diagnosed with, want to do. So we're just trying to create real community, and I think that so that's the basic. We got this dream of the world being frankly less like it is right now and less than what it seems to be becoming, which is a more kind of a less community rich place. And what our sort of theory of change is that if you can if you bring people together, basically when people meet up, they tend to be the better parts of themselves come out. And people feel more powerful and are more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's so amazing about Meetup to me is that it is 16 years old as a company, and in a field that people normally aren't thinking very long term in. It kind of has its roots as a technology company where people are usually thinking a year out or whatever. How have you kept that mission, that sense of culture constant over the history of the company? Has it changed any?
Well, plenty has changed. I mean, in so many ways within the company and our different approaches and the strategies and all that. But actually, the core mission remains the same. And while and everyone sort of asks, well, why don't you do virtual meetups? And we're like, no. There's that can be really valuable and important, and that'll be done. But we've got this basic idea. Actually, it's if I may, the Gabriel and I had a conversation that was funny to me just 5-10 minutes ago because we're friends and hopefully you and your friends don't sit around blathering about your companies and your work and bragging or even just giving a shit too much about your friends in that way. But I was actually surprised that Gabriel didn't know the actual origin story of Meetup, even though we've talked about our mutual work quite a bit. And it actually is really, I just realizing that it's actually relevant to this line of questioning and this whole thing here, this from day one, but this question of how are values embedded and perhaps persistent across a long period of time. We actually don't talk about this story very much, and that is, Meetup's a 9/11 baby. We were launched almost 9 months to the day after 9/11, and it came out of a 9/11 experience, which was, I came to New York from, I grew up in the Midwest. I came to New York from Iowa. And here I am living in an apartment building at Elizabeth and Houston, Nolita, and typical, didn't really know my neighbors at all in my apartment building. It was kind of a big apartment building. And when 9/11 that morning, as just after the second plane hit, went to the roof of the building, and over the course of 10, 20 hour, 2 hours, a lot of my neighbors, basically dozens of people filtered their way to the roof of this apartment building just to see with their bare eyes what's happening. And anyway, long story short, I talked to my neighbors, and became and established relationships with my neighbors. And in the hours and days and weeks after, people would say hello to each other in the elevator, and there was a sense. And then there's also very specific stories of people just kind of looking out for each other and actually caring for each other in this kind of face-to-face environment of an apartment building, which is a neighborhood, a city. And so anyway, Meetup was born literally out of so I gathered 4 co-founders within a few weeks, and we locked ourselves in a 200 square foot room at Lafayette and Spring, and had a design goal, which is how can we use the internet to get people off the internet, and just and create local community. And so I guess the question of how do you persist for a long time? It's there's just a simple, meaningful purpose and vision and mission for the company to kind of create that, and so it's not that hard to be unwavering, so long as you can make it a viable business.
Yeah. That mission of, the internet to help people get off the internet, has been a constant through Meetup's history. But I can imagine that you've been tempted many times to abandon that, to get into sort of the virtual community building that, other social networks we know have done. Can you describe any of those decisions, any of those points where you said, we're not going to do something?
Well, yeah, running the gamut from not selling data to not doing ads to, I know it's good to have just a good story, but it's, we have a purpose,
yeah.
and we got a picture of where we want of what we're hoping for the world to be, and it doesn't include the things that we've said no to. But but again, it's not like this isn't some sort of. It is do-gooder. Sometimes I have to say we're not just these do-gooder. This is a company that's built a company that's is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I know the phrase do well and do good can be annoying, but I don't know. We've said no quite a bit to a lot.
Yeah. Well, fast forward to a couple more recent times. It's certainly something that we talk about a lot, and I think a lot of people are talking about, is just how toxic digital communication, digital social communities can be in this hyper-partisan age. And I remember you've told me a little bit of it. Maybe you can share with them what your company's experience was after 2016. You had to make some pretty hard decisions about how to preserve those communities. Could you walk them through sort of what happened after the election and into the communities and on the Meetup platform?
Yeah. Wow. I'm trying to make sure this stays. How to make this really kind of useful or relevant to everyone here. But yeah, as a technology platform that connects people, we all know that we're living in a world that is highly affected by the filter bubbles and the all these things that go on. So certainly our part of our vision and our dream is, and for real, I drove to the middle of Pennsylvania a few weeks before the 2016 election, just because I was going crazy, and I wanted to you have to kind of get outside New York a little bit just to get a taste of the country, and so I went to a hiking meetup, which was the Wednesday morning Central Pennsylvania hiking meetup group where they, on Wednesday mornings, this retired Army colonel, has this hike, and you show up, and there's 20, 25 people at 7 in the morning, and it was, and you're stuck, you're locked on a hiking trail with a bunch of people, and you know that they're not all voting for Hillary, they're not all voting for Donald Trump, and there's something special that happens, and that is that you do have something in common, and you're spending time together, and it softens the feeling of hate at an extreme. When people. So whether people are going to a hiking meetup or a breast cancer meetup or a new mom's meetup or whatever it is, you find that, oh wait, not every, we have something in common, which is what brought us together for the meetup, but we might be very different, and that is the kind of bridging and healing of sorts that I think and just a functioning, healthy society needs. But to your point about, just real quick, I guess, what we found after 2016 was that people were saying, well, I don't want to go to that hiking meetup or that breast cancer meetup or that new mom's meetup or that writers meetup or whatever it is, because I don't want to have to confront the possibility that there's a Donald Trump supporter in this. I'm not going to feel comfortable, like having this friendly exchange in that kind of situation, and so it does test sort of our are we going against the grain of culture? Yeah. Are we trying to change culture? Or one could say also, no, we're headed into you talk to a 25-year-old, where Airbnb is completely normal, where it used to seem weird. And no, people would say, like, no, strangers are not getting strangers. Strangers, that we're actually heading into a culture that is more welcoming, even co-working, it's a part of WeWork, that's a foreign concept too.
Yeah.
Was a foreign concept.
Speaking of WeWork, you're now kind of taking a culture that you've tended to for quite a while and transitioning into being part of a larger organization. How do you protect the meetup culture while becoming more, I don't know, are you becoming more WeWork after the acquisition?
Good question. I guess, yeah, and I know a lot of you are part of big companies, big organizations, and how do you, how might there be tribes or communities or cultures within a larger organization, and how do large organizations function? Well, I'm figuring it out. This is only a few months old. I could probably get advice from folks here, but the beauty of the deal was that, and I'm sorry to be a broken record, but like I'm just a big stickler for shared vision, shared dream, shared purpose, and so there was we locked onto this notion of this idea of a physical social network, that Meetup has community that needs space, WeWork has space that needs community, and most importantly, there's this, libraries are amazing, but what is the future of physical space that is built for community, and that what are these public space, where does community happen? As Amazon, clears out all the storefront retail, what, are storefront retail the future community spaces, and just this, what were mosques and synagogues and churches, these networked community spaces, what is the future of how people actually come together? Or are we all just going to live in Netflix universe and distract ourselves from struggle? Will we turn to each other, or will we turn on each other and fight? But the question of here I am leading a 250-person company that is now part of what might be the fastest growing company in the world, which has gone from, don't quote me on the numbers, like 2,000-3,000 employees to 7,000-8,000 employees in a matter of 18 months. That's WeWork. And so the fact that we have this shared vision of just basically more physical community in the world gives us a leeway to be kind of tolerant of each other, I guess, but hopefully be stronger together. My dream is for Meetup to be like Instagram to Facebook or YouTube to Google. But there's been some challenges, but it's overall, it's thankfully we all kind of want the same thing and have a shared vision.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that thinking of just the teams that you've built, do you find the right people to fit those teams, or do you try to form people? I mean, how do you keep everyone on that same page for once they come in and understanding what the vision is of Meetup?
That's really I don't know. I know we're good at it. I know I'm good at it, but I don't know how. And I'm sorry if that sounds, but like I'm telling you, it is to be basically busting your ass for 15, 16 years and be like hustling and scrappy and like built a thing. And I'm telling you, we went from hiring like 5 or 6 people a month to, sometimes 15, 20 people a month these past few months. And oh my God, these people we're hiring now, we used to like really, we had to sell the mission, and we would generally find some pretty good mission fit, but there is something about being in the right place at the right time with the right mission at the right time in culture and zeitgeist and in where the world is and what people want to see in the world. And we are hiring right now just consistently the most like mission-driven. Basically, we have a ritual at Meetup where everyone, it's not unusual. You might do something similar in your organizations, which is people, they stand up in front of the company and they're within a few weeks of starting, and say, why is what we're doing important to you? Answering the question, why is what we're doing important to me? And I've been doing this for forever, and like, it's just really plain and simple. The people now can basically sell the vision and the mission of what it means to bring people together in real life for community and opportunity. They can sell it better than I can. And so, I mean, fuck, I've done a lot of things wrong, but to know that like there's a machine, there's a hiring machine and a thing happening where like the people are attracted to the organization for the right reasons. I mean, obviously it has part to do with like the practices of I mean, it's like just for example, the practice of having people be expressive about why is what we're doing important to you. I think that's, I mean, I wish we did that in more than just the context of the new employee. I think that that can be a really powerful mechanism in that someone in this room will, I'm sure, figure out an operational thing to do to embed in a culture that's ongoing. Yeah. I'm sensing the room's a little bored. Is that not a really cool concept of making sure that people like we were talking actually whatever Gabriel.
No, go ahead.
No, really quick. We were talking to someone I forget his name. He works for an insurance company. Mm-hmm. And your first instinct is like, oh, that sounds boring. But he says we are a reciprocal organization, and I'm so curious about like, does the typical employee? So it's reciprocal, not a mutual, which is different than a co-op. But I'm thinking like, wow, does that employee at that organization, that company, do they really get the beauty of what they're a part of? That like, unlike 99% of other companies in the world, like this is an actual like, it's not a just company that's set up to suck profits into some Wall Street machine and be a part of the speculative broken parts of the economy, or that it's fundamental. And so do the employees speak about why that is cool?
Yeah. But it sounds like you do speak about that a lot. And I know one of the values that you've often deal with is making sure that your workforce is inclusive, which can be challenging, especially in a technology field. So could you maybe tell us about how you've addressed, especially gender balance in the leadership of your company?
Sure. And Gabriel, by the way, I've been lucky to have Gabriel's helped out with a couple of projects in the past year to helped us with some things, and so you've spent a little bit of time kind of around the organization a little bit, and so I wonder if anything that I'll answer your question, but anything that you might observe about either this or whatever companies and organizations that you've observed and seen or been a part of, and your lessons on this. Meetup is a tech company. We're mostly engineering, product, and design, which lends itself to basically we, found ourselves, woke up 5-7 years ago and realized that virtually the entire leadership and executive and management function was all guys and white guys, and so, long story short, went on a deliberative effort to see about changing that. And here we are today. The top 20-ish people in the company are mostly identify as women, and it didn't happen by accident. We're lucky because we have a mission that attracts people and stuff like that. But it was, there was like key. I guess one key moment in that was we had to replace our CTO, and the pool in the field of CTO candidates is, as you might guess, mostly men, and we had the best recruiters on it, and in the end, but the recruiters didn't deliver, although they did a fine job. We pushed to say, I don't want to see, only men candidates who are male, and so, but it's that like pushing and that deliberative seeking of a, the philosophy is like you're going to get the best candidate if you see a diverse pool. Yep. And I would gladly hire a white guy for the job, but it turned out that, and by the way, my recruiting trick was I just go to everyone I know and I say, who's the best boss you ever had? And so my college roommate, his wife works at GitHub, and I was interviewing, yet more, typical CTO candidates in San Francisco, and I saw my friend. They just had a baby, and I said to his wife, I said, Maggie, who's the best boss you ever had? And she said, oh, well, my old boss Yvette, best boss ever. I'm sorry, Maggie was an engineer at GitHub, and she was the best for the job, and so so it's that don't necessarily trust the recruiter, or don't just rely on the recruiter, but just really see as many people as you can, and that diverse pool, will so you might end up with more diversity on your team.
So it sounds like you had to push back a lot. What did the recruiters say when you said this isn't cutting?
Well, they say Scott, the pool is the pool, and the candidates are the candidates, and we can cry about that historical bias has led to X, Y, or Z, and so whatever. And so here I am. There's there's sort of a tiny piece of news, which is I'm moving into a chairman. This was news a few weeks ago. I'm moving into a chairman role gonna be moving into a chairman role at Meetup, and we're gonna hire a new. I've been in this seat for 16 years, and we're gonna hire a new CEO of Meetup, and so here we are, revving up this big search, and we're gonna hire the best candidate, period, no matter whatever their background, but it's pushing for a diverse pool is hard.
Yeah, well, I was wanting to talk about that because that CEO search, is probably one of your biggest parts of your job right now, and thinking about the importance that you've placed on culture in the company. How are you thinking about the person that you're handing off the CEO role to? How much Have you started talking to candidates? How much of is culture, company culture, a part of those conversations?
It's a lot. It's well, actually, to be honest, where we are in the search is that like we're just trying to get to the first level of the first level of qualification and getting revving up candidates at that level. It's so woven into the fabric of myself and the company that like the culture is going to be key. That being said, there was a if you want to like find a juicy, horrible article about us, there was Gizmodo ran a piece after the Meetup acquisition saying, oh, Meetup culture is going to shit because and we told you so because WeWork would do this and that. The fact is that like any culture, you have your problems, and before the WeWork acquisition, we had to, and with my COO Fiona Spruill, we had to we made major changes to our, we felt that there was a bit of complacency that come into the organization and a bit of like not like fierceness around like we are here to go from a few million people going to a meetup every month to hundreds of millions, and that's all we really care about because we're a mission-driven organization. That's where part of the to put your money to put your actions and your whatever where your mouth is about vision and values is like you have to have the hard conversations and fire people and all this. But anyway, the point is this Gizmodo piece basically says, Meetup's changing and becoming more, people are being held accountable within the company to be getting work done, and we told you so that it's going to shit, and I'm like, and they published this like internal deck of like how we're like saying we have to hold people that there's got to be more accountability for everyone in the company, and I was like, we were like celebrating they published this internal deck because again, if you're values driven, if you're mission driven, it's really easy to kind of have that belief. I'm sure a lot of you deal with like what % of your day are you dealing with things that aren't actually about serving the customers and pursuing your mission, but instead kind of drifting into these like very important conversations about inclusion and things of that sort. Very, very important stuff. But at its heart, the mission of a company, and I guess this might be an interesting. The heart of your company's impact on the world shouldn't just be that you operate internally well and healthy. That's kind of table stakes and a given. The reason why an organization exists is to, make something valuable to people's lives, like insurance. Or healthcare, and by the way, if you're finding yourself like sitting right now in a moment where you're saying like, well, my company has a good culture, but we don't make anything useful to people. We're not like making our customers' lives better. Then I think you don't need my judgment. I just think I think it's a waste, frankly. Like I think like there's so much important work to be done in the world, and ultimately the questions of like, what are your values, and all the overarching themes of this room, I bet are really come down to like we want a better world that, and that comes through I think the products and services that are ultimately being made, and in my case, Meetup like. Some companies will say they've got a mission of this, but really they're just selling ads and addicting people to screens and making other shit. And so you could put a nice thing on it, but I don't know. I feel like you'll attract good talent and attract good vibes. Please don't quote me on that. By having that alignment between what you make and who you sell it to and how you make money and all that.
Yeah, you're really making a distinction between. I think the marketing of a mission, or the mission marketing versus actually having a mission as a company. I think these socks were sold by a company that gave some water to someone to it. But really, they're selling socks. That's their mission, is to put nice socks on people.
Well, people need good socks.
Yeah. They're comfortable. They look nice. But you're really talking about something much deeper, which is, what is the actual purpose of the reason your 250 people get together every day and build a product?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. How have you seen that, while we have a minute, like I mean, fundamentally, journalism is, it can be driven by this, democracy dies in darkness and all this stuff. What have you seen when it works?
When it works, I mean, I think it's similar to what you're talking about, which is connecting people. That's a value. That's ultimately what journalism is about. Is communicating information from one person to a wider community and making the entire community come together. And so, in your best days, you do that, and other days, not so much. Well, thank you, Scott, so much. Thank you for listening in, and appreciate you sharing those insights.
Yeah.